As a software engineer, specifically a web developer, I tend to think of things on the internet a little bit more differently than most people do. Oftentimes when I'm using some sort of technology, I tend to think of how does this thing work and how do people interact with it? And since I make software for a living, I kind of do this a lot. And lately, what I've been thinking about a lot is the negative side effects of social media. More specifically, the level that social media platforms are tracking you and the level that they have influence over your decision making. I believe that most people have a pretty good understanding that they're being tracked online by these social media platforms and that certain things like their location and their interest in products and entertainment are being analyzed. But not knowing how this data is used and to what extent can cause a lot of people to just shrug it off and not care, or on the other extreme, fall into conspiracy theories. The reality is, it's in the best interest of these companies to collect as much data from you as possible and analyze it so that they can try to predict what you're into, what kind of interests you have, so that they can bid your attention to outside companies. This level of data collection and analysis is what allows these companies to give you the personalized experience that you have on these platforms. And this catered, personalized experience is oftentimes why people spend so much time on these platforms. Now, on the bright side, this allows small companies to be able to start up with very low cost and target audiences that they know will very much be interested in their products so that they can grow more effectively at a lower cost. However, the level at which they collect data and analyze it is actually enough to predict your behavior, sometimes better than maybe even you're able to predict your own behavior. So the question on my mind lately has been, is it worth it? And this is a perfectly valid question to be asking. In my personal opinion, everybody should know what data is collected from them and how it's used. Companies such as Apple have actually been leaning towards enforcing a more transparent approach to user data acquisition. Unfortunately, that's not exactly in the best interest of certain companies such as Facebook to make that 100% transparent, and that's actually been the cause of some feuds between Apple and Facebook lately. Not to say Facebook is necessarily trying to hide it per se, but maybe it's in their better interest to word it in ways that makes you not really care, or to, make it to where you don't really see the negative sides of it as easily. So what might those negative aspects be? Well, honestly, there's a lot, but one really common way is for people with malicious intent to use targeted ads to spread some sort of ideology. It's kind of insanely easy to be able to target specific people for your ads. And I mean very, very easy, and I mean very, very specific people. Facebook literally gives you the opportunity to target exactly the type of people you want to target. You can choose their locations, their gender, you can choose their specific interests, and much more. And that level of targeting is actually what gave rise to things such as troll farms or troll factories. And these troll farms have led to pretty significant propaganda, even so far as affecting global elections. So this stuff is serious, which brings me back to my question, is it worth it? And honestly, maybe it is. It's just something that we really should all think about. Do we want to live in a society where it's really easy to target people based off of their interests? Are we even really honestly willing to give up our personalized experiences that we spend so much time on? And is it even our own conscious decisions to be spending that much time on these platforms anyway? These are the sorts of questions I've been thinking about for a while now, and I think you should be as well. Now, it is important to understand that there also are tons of positives of social media as well. The positives are vast. Let me know in the comments if you think the positives outweigh the negatives. Now, me personally, I've noticed how difficult it really can be to distance myself from social media. It's easy to take a break here and there, but eventually I always come back to it. And honestly, I think it's the communication aspect of it. In more traditional communication apps like messaging apps, instant messaging, chat apps, that sort of thing, the communication is very one-on-one or occasionally a sort of closed-in group chat. With social media, it kind of brings in a new dimension which makes the conversations public, and therefore people can come into these conversations and you can interact with people that you otherwise would have never interacted with in the first place. It also means there's a lot going on and a lot to be entertained by. I do think it's important to stay disciplined with your use of social media and to be intentional with how you use it, and not use it for copious amounts of time in a half-conscious state. And as a web developer, I think it's super important for me to keep the end user in mind and think about what I make and how it affects them. For most people, profit is the number one reason they're making an app, so it's really hard for some people to sacrifice that for the greater good. And I'll leave it at that. I just kind of wanted to document my thoughts and talk about a topic in my field that affects so many people all around the world. And with that, I'll see you all in my next video. Have a great day.